They won't even let me get a permit for the events anymore. They're trying to stop me from hosting them, but that's not going to happen. We're still going to have a good time and keep bringing all kinds of people together. You probably won't hear much about my parties. They'll be shutting them down fast. Honestly, they might even try to arrest me. Just a heads up before we start. Viewer discretion is advised. What you're about to hear is meant purely for education and entertainment. This is a direct account of what was said in federal court on the fifth day of Sean Diddy Combs' trial, based on reports from inner-city press. The fifth day of the trial took an unexpected twist, and it had nothing to do with what happened inside the courtroom. Just minutes before things kicked off, something major dropped online. Justin Bieber, who was once guided by Diddy on his path to fame, finally spoke out. What he revealed didn't just back up what Cassie had said, it also brought new attention to years of quiet rumors, unsettling videos, and strange interviews that the music world had tried to keep hidden. When Diddy saw what Bieber had shared, first on his phone, then shown by reporters and passed around the courtroom, he completely lost control. The same man who once proudly claimed to have helped launch Bieber's career couldn't handle the shock of being turned on. It hit him hard. Security had to intervene. The room went completely quiet. This wasn't just a breakdown. It felt like the beginning of the downfall. Back in 2009, Justin Bieber was the picture of innocence. Just 15, fresh out of Ontario, and newly signed under Scooter Braun and Usher. His first single, One Time, was quickly rising on the charts, and almost overnight, he became a worldwide sensation. He was living the dream. He was clean-cut, likable, and already had millions of fans. But behind the scenes, Justin's rapid rise was being steered by older, more experienced figures operating in the industry's shadows. One of those figures was Sean Diddy Combs. Diddy didn't just meet Justin, he took him under his wing. He introduced him to the scene, brought him to events, and called himself a mentor. In one now well-known clip from that time, Diddy even joked in an interview that he had custody of Justin for 48 hours. At the time, it was played off as a joke. People laughed, but that moment left behind an uneasy feeling, one that wouldn't fully make sense until years later. Old videos from that time show Bieber looking young, wide-eyed, and a bit uncomfortable, standing next to Diddy as the cameras rolled. Diddy often spoke on Justin's behalf, made off-color jokes, and led him into situations that, looking back, felt far too grown up for a teenager. In one clip, Justin tries to joke about girls, and Diddy responds with, "My man," a line that once seemed harmless, but now feels troubling in a different light. Diddy wasn't just another star, he was one of the biggest power players in the music industry. For Bieber, getting Diddy's approval opened doors. It gave him access, influence, and a sense of security. But it also put him in a vulnerable spot, wrapped up in a world where the lines were often blurred, temptations were everywhere, and power went largely unchallenged. Back then, Bieber praised Diddy in interviews, calling him an inspiration, someone who believed in him before the rest of the music world caught on. But behind those words was a different reality. The public didn't see the setting where it all happened, the private talks, the late nights off camera, the influence of a lifestyle far from suitable for a teenager. On the surface, it looked like a helpful mentorship, but as we've come to learn, guidance in the entertainment world can come with hidden costs, sometimes in the form of control, or worse, captivity. What was once seen as a proud connection between Justin Bieber and Diddy is now being looked at in a much darker way. As Justin's fame exploded in the 2000s and early 2010s, so did his exposure to the grown-up world of entertainment, a world that was way too much for someone barely out of middle school. While Scooter Braun and Usher got most of the public credit for managing his career, Diddy worked quietly behind the scenes. He hosted events, guided Justin, and brought him into powerful circles where control, image, and influence were everything. Justin was often spotted right next to Diddy at parties, too young to even drive and surrounded by music industry veterans twice his age. He showed up at exclusive clubs, Hollywood events, and red carpet nights, places not really meant for teenagers. But with Diddy's charm and connections, Justin was always there. The power difference wasn't just about their ages. It was about what Diddy could provide. He had the power to get Bieber into any place, introduce him to famous people, and control how the world saw him. In return, Bieber was expected to be loyal, keep up appearances, and learn the unspoken rules of this darker side of fame. Behind closed doors, what looked like mentorship often felt more like control and dominance than support. Those who knew Bieber later said he was often overwhelmed, feeling pressure from every direction. While Diddy's influence boosted his career, it also brought him face to face with the darker side of the industry. Things like addiction to fame, manipulation, and unclear moral boundaries. The emotional and mental strain from those years showed up pretty fast. Bieber's behavior started to change. He got arrested and had run-ins with the paparazzi. He was losing control. Looking back, it's not surprising. Being just 15, told you're a worldwide star, and handed a drink at one of Diddy's parties is far from normal. It's a risky situation. The entertainment industry let Bieber down by expecting him to act like an adult before he was ready. Diddy was never accused of directly hurting Bieber, but the way he mentored him put Bieber in places no kid should have been. That kind of damage lasts a long time. And then there's the silence that followed. While other young artists began speaking up about abuse of power, Bieber stayed silent. He didn't speak out against Diddy or push back. That all changed on day 5 of the trial. Suddenly, the quiet side of their relationship was thrown into the spotlight, filled with regret. The internet never forgets. When the Diddy scandal hit the news, social media sprang into action, digging deeper. What they uncovered was a clip that had mostly flown under the radar for years. There's a video showing a young Justin Bieber and Diddy laughing and smiling together. At first glance, it looks like a normal, friendly moment between a star and his young protege. But now, after the allegations came out, it feels unsettling. In the clip, Diddy says with a grin, "I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me." He pats Justin on the back, and Justin gives an awkward smile and nods. Back then, it seemed like just another quirky thing Diddy said. But now it stands out as a warning sign that people missed. The clip is only a few minutes long, but the mood in it is what makes it uncomfortable to watch. Diddy talks like he's in control, while Bieber seems out of place. When the video first aired years ago, people laughed, but now those laughs feel empty. The clip quickly spread across Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit. Many viewers noticed how uncomfortable Bieber looked. Others couldn't believe no one questioned it back then. Context is everything. With the current sex trafficking allegations, videos like this take on a much darker meaning. What once appeared as a star mentoring a young talent now seems more like an uneven power dynamic shown on national TV. People close to Bieber say that watching the video again was really hard for him. It brought back memories he had tried to forget. It made him wonder if his instincts back then had been correct, and if he was just too young and scared to say anything. With the video resurfacing, staying silent was no longer an option for Bieber. He started working on a statement, quietly and thoughtfully. It wasn't just about Cassie anymore. It was about the image he had of a man who played a big role in his life. The painful truth was that the man he once admired might not have deserved his trust. When Bieber finally spoke out, the whole world, including Diddy, was paying attention. By his mid-20s, Bieber had been through it all. The rise, the fall, and a slow recovery that few child stars manage. The boy once guided by powerful figures like Diddy was no longer the wide-eyed kid on the red carpet. By then, he had grown into a man, one who was just beginning to understand how much his past had affected him. From 2014 to 2016, Bieber's life was marked by public meltdowns, run-ins with the law, clashes with paparazzi, and last-minute cancellations. The pressure had finally reached a breaking point. Years later, in interviews, Bieber confessed that fame had almost destroyed him. "I would have been dead by now if I kept going," he told Zane Lowe. His voice was steady, but his eyes revealed the pain beneath. The real turning point, however, didn't come from his music career. It came from marriage. In 2018, Justin married model Hailey Baldwin. It was more than just a relationship, it was a rebirth. Through Hailey and his deepening Christian faith, Bieber began peeling back the layers of trauma and manipulation from his teenage years. He quit drugs, he sought therapy. Gradually, he started to open up, cautiously, never revealing all the details, about how the industry had taken advantage of him when he was most vulnerable. Though he never named Diddy directly, the message was clear. People told me they loved me, then turned their backs on me in an instant, he said. He described being 15, surrounded by adults who saw him not as a person, but as an opportunity. Slowly, he began to distance himself from those old industry ties. To the public, it looked like a full-circle moment, a mentor and his former protege creating together again. But insiders say Bieber regretted the collaboration almost immediately. Sources close to him reveal that when he agreed to participate, he wasn't fully aware of the seriousness of the allegations against Diddy. When the lawsuit surfaced and the raid started, Bieber reportedly went silent. He shut down, said one associate. He felt angry, hurt, and confused, unsure of what to believe. That's what made Day 5 so shocking. After years of silence, Bieber finally broke his quiet stance. He had kept his distance for years. But that morning, just minutes before court began, he finally broke his silence. And it changed everything. At exactly 8:12 a.m., on Day 5 of the trial, Justin Bieber posted a message to his 270 million followers that would shift the entire courtroom's atmosphere. The post was brief, just a few sentences, paired with a black and white photo of him and Cassie from a music event years before. But the caption? It sliced through the noise like a sharp blade. Cassie, I see you. I remember what I saw, and I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. Within minutes, the post went viral. News outlets shared it widely, and fans poured into the comments, some expressing support, others wrestling with the weight of Bieber's words. The room went quiet, everyone feeling the weight of Bieber's message. Rumors had been around for a long time, but this was the first time a huge star spoke out openly about the darker side behind the fame. As the trial moved forward, Bieber's statement marked a shift. He wasn't just someone in the background anymore. He was now a voice calling for honesty and responsibility. Outside the courtroom, social media blew up. People argued and started facing the truth behind the news stories. For Justin Bieber, this was the beginning of taking back control of his own story and finally speaking his truth. In his post, Bieber shared more details. He recalled seeing Diddy grab Cassie's arm too tightly at an after-party in 2015. Bieber also remembered how Diddy would cut in during Cassie's interviews, answer questions for her, and keep a close watch on who she talked to. Bieber shared that he always sensed something wasn't right, but he was too young, confused, and afraid to speak up. He said, "Sometimes I wondered if this was normal, but I was just a kid." Bieber admitted he believed this was just how the industry operated. His post closed with a heartbreaking thought. If he had spoken out earlier, maybe she wouldn't have felt so isolated. The courtroom buzzed as staff rushed to handle the reaction. One assistant quickly printed the post and handed it to the prosecutors. The judge hadn't even arrived yet when the murmurs started spreading. A juror quietly asked for water, and a court reporter hurried to inform their editor. Lawyers from both sides exchanged hushed whispers behind their files, their faces showing surprise. But the impact was already clear. Bieber's message had accomplished what no prosecutor's questions could, bringing in a new, believable voice from outside the courtroom. A top celebrity who had once been part of Diddy's circle was now openly supporting Cassie's accusations. Security shifted near Diddy's table, with a guard stepping in closer. The mood in the courtroom changed from tense to charged. At first, Diddy stayed still, but his legs started shaking and his hand clenched the edge of the table. As the prosecution prepared to call Cassie back to the stand, Diddy's lawyer tried to distract him, handing him a notepad, pointing to evidence, but nothing worked. Diddy had already seen the post, and something inside him changed. People noticed his breathing grew heavier. He ran his hand through his hair, loosened his tie, and whispered to his lawyer. Then suddenly he slammed his hand on the table, knocking over a glass of water. The glass shattered and the courtroom gasped. The judge quickly banged her gavel. "Mr. Combs, compose yourself," she warned. But Diddy stood up, shouting, "This is all lies. You know that's not how it happened." He then pointed at the evidence on the screen and added, "And him, after everything I did for him?" Security rushed forward, and his lawyer tried to pull him back into his seat. Diddy pushed his lawyer's hand away. One of the guards unfastened something from his belt. The judge stood up and firmly ordered, "Clear the jury." Cassie stayed calm, not reacting at all. As the jurors were let out, Diddy kept shouting, "This is all made up. Loyalty doesn't mean anything now." Then he said something that made everyone fall silent. "I'll make sure he never works in this town again," Diddy said. He was talking about Bieber, saying it out loud right there in court, with reporters watching. That moment changed everything. Diddy had just threatened a worldwide star in front of everyone. His lawyer covered his face with his hands, clearly overwhelmed. The prosecutor looked at him in shock, unable to believe what she had just heard. The judge wasn't finished either. Standing firmly behind the bench, she delivered the sharpest, coldest statement of the day. "Mr. Combs, this courtroom is not yours to control," the judge said firmly. "If you cause another scene, I will have you removed and held in contempt." From that moment, security stayed close. One guard right behind him, another by the door. After that, Diddy didn't say another word. But he didn't have to say anything else. The reputation he'd worked on for years, the powerful mogul, the trusted mentor, the man in control, was falling apart right before everyone's eyes. For the first time, the jury wasn't just seeing a strong figure on trial. The jury watched as the man started to fall apart right in front of them. Once things settled down after Diddy's outburst and the jury took their seats again, the prosecution moved quickly. They called Cassie Ventura back to the stand, steady and collected. Cassie returned to the stand, calm as if nothing had happened moments before. But what she said next shook the courtroom even more than Diddy's outburst. Her words tied everything together, including Justin Bieber's message. Taking a steady breath, she said, "I know many are surprised by what Justin shared, but I wasn't." The room grew quiet, hanging on her every word. She confirmed that Justin Bieber was frequently around during her time with Diddy. "We were both young," she said. "He was like a little brother to everyone in the industry." Diddy enjoyed showing him off, taking him to events and teaching him the ropes. When asked if Justin ever noticed anything strange, Cassie didn't pause. He saw more than he even knew at the time, and more than he was prepared to handle. Cassie shared that Diddy maintained a strict list of men she wasn't allowed to speak to unless he was there. Justin Bieber was on that list. Diddy would warn her, "Don't smile too long. Don't talk unless I'm close by." And if she didn't follow those rules, there would be consequences afterward. The prosecution then showed text messages exchanged between Cassie and Bieber from 2017, well before any of the lawsuits began. The messages were brief, but looking back, they felt deeply unsettling. Cassie wrote, "I don't know what to do anymore." Bieber replied, "He watches everything. This isn't normal. You need to reach out to someone." The jurors clearly reacted. Some looked shocked. One woman even wiped tears from under her glasses. These messages didn't just back up Cassie's story. They showed she had trusted someone with her struggles years before. This wasn't something made up at the last minute. This wasn't about money or lawsuits. It was a desperate call for help. When asked why she hadn't shared those messages before, Cassie gave a straightforward answer. Because he told her no one would believe her. "And I believed him," Cassie said. She went on to share a memory from a music industry party. She was chatting and laughing with Justin by the buffet, just having a good time. Then Diddy saw them, pulled her aside and whispered, "Even Justin knows what happens to people who cross me." That line shook the courtroom. Cassie looked straight ahead as she said it again, making sure everyone heard. "That was the first time I really feared for Justin, and for myself," Cassie said. The prosecution ended her testimony there, choosing silence over more words. But that quiet moment spoke volumes. Bieber's post hadn't just gone viral, it had turned into crucial evidence. By the afternoon of day 5, the case was no longer just about Cassie and Diddy. It had become something much bigger. News outlets were calling it the most important celebrity trial since Harvey Weinstein's fall. But this time, people weren't just waiting for the final verdict. They were witnessing everything unfold live. As the jury listened to Cassie's story and saw the messages exchanged with Bieber, the media outside the courthouse went into a frenzy. Within minutes, major outlets like TMZ, Variety, Rolling Stone, and CNN were all running headlines. They focused on how Bieber's statement backed up Cassie's story and how those 2017 texts tore apart Diddy's defense. But it wasn't only the media reacting. Behind the scenes, the music world was starting to feel the shock. People close to Bieber said his phone wouldn't stop ringing. Musicians, producers, and industry executives were all getting in touch, some to show support, others to caution him. One message reportedly said, "You've just opened the floodgates." And they weren't exaggerating. Former assistants, backup dancers, and label interns, people who had worked within Diddy's empire for years, started reaching out to Cassie's legal team. While not everyone was ready to testify in court, many were willing to provide sworn statements. The one thing they all shared was a history of fear and silence, now broken by a sense of validation. Looks good. It's clear and natural without sounding copied or too formal. If you want, I can help rewrite the next parts in the same style, or tweak this one more casual or more formal. What vibe are you going for? It became clear that the silence had been the loudest message all along. On social media, fans began calling out other artists who had worked with Diddy over the years. Some of those artists responded by distancing themselves or turning off comments on their posts. The pressure kept mounting because Bieber had broken the unspoken rule. Don't speak up. Don't name names. Later, Cassie's lawyers revealed that several artists had already reached out to prosecutors for private conversations. Some had stories, some had recordings, but all were afraid. Inside the courtroom, the prosecution remained calm. They weren't finished yet. Next, they were ready to introduce something even more damaging than text messages: a video. As day 5 drew to a close, the prosecution asked the judge for permission to present a newly authenticated piece of visual evidence. The courtroom fell silent. The judge nodded in approval. The courtroom lights dimmed slightly. What played on the screen lasted just 40 seconds. It was security footage from 2018, taken inside the lobby of a high-end hotel in Los Angeles. Cassie appeared, speaking quietly with a male artist. Then Diddy stepped into the frame. He didn't cause a scene, but he didn't need to. He walked straight over, placed a firm hand around Cassie's waist, and whispered something in her ear. Her smile disappeared. She nodded silently. He then guided her away. Subtle but unmistakable. Chillingly subtle. But it perfectly matched the behavior Cassie had described, and the control Bieber said he'd witnessed firsthand. When the lights came back up, Diddy wasn't looking at the judge. He was staring at the floor. As the court adjourned for the day, reporters swarmed out of the building, eager to capture every moment. By nightfall, the damage had spread. Brands started pulling endorsements. Streaming platforms quietly began reviewing whether to remove Diddy's past catalog. Behind closed doors, talks were underway about dissolving business partnerships, and more people kept coming forward. For Justin Bieber, the day didn't end in victory. It was only the beginning of something much bigger. It ended in exhaustion. A source close to Bieber said he didn't do this to be a hero. He did it because he couldn't stay silent anymore. He'd been through his own hell, and now he was using his voice to help someone else walk through theirs. For Cassie, it was more than vindication. It was proof that her story mattered, that someone, especially someone the world once idolized, had seen it, believed it, and spoken out. And for Diddy, it marked the beginning of the end. What happens next remains to be seen. But after day 5, one thing was clear. The silence that protected the powerful for so long had finally been broken, and it might never return.